What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. Week 3 has come and gone, and what was supposed to be a very, very boring, kind of under the radar Week 3 proved to kind of be just that, right? It was under the radar, but it was not boring at all. We had a lot of upsets, learned a lot of things about some teams, and thusly, while there are not a whole lot of new teams into my top 25 poll, there are a lot of changes as to where some teams may be ranked. Top 10, not as much. Maybe some teams shifted around here and there, but there were some substantial and then some subtle changes to my top 25. However, there are no new teams in this top 25. Again, yes, spoiler alert there. But before we dive into that, guys, thank you guys so much for your support on the channel lately. If you want to continue to show your support, like, comment, subscribe, or I guess subscribe, ring the bell, so you know when videos get uploaded, and there are more ways than that to help me support my channel. I just listed a couple of them there. Like, comment, share. But you are also supporting my channel by watching this video, and any other way you guys can help interact with and support the channel would mean a lot to me. So, without further ado, guys, sorry, I just hit my microphone there. We're going to dive into my Week 4 top 25. But first, as usual, we got to go through honorable mentions, and there are a lot on the board this week. So, let's go ahead and break it down here by conference. Do have a couple teams out of the ACC here. You got Clemson, who is, again, right there on the cusp. They got a big one against Florida State upcoming this week. I'll have a preview prediction video out for that one. So, chance for Clemson to jump back into the top 25 there. Louisville is also one of the remaining, I believe, 49, 50 or so undefeated teams left in the nation. So, they are up here as well. Moving on into the SEC, you got Florida. They just had a big win over the Tennessee Volunteers. Still want to see a little bit more from the Gators till I put them in my top 25. The Kentucky Wildcats have not been super impressive so far, but still without a loss. And then the Missouri Tigers, Mevis just hit the longest field goal in SEC history. They are up here as well. They are very, very close to breaking into the top 25. Big 12, you got a couple new teams out of the Big 12 here. The BYU is on the list after going on the road and having a very impressive win against the Arkansas Razorbacks, who are off of the honorable mention list. TCU, UCF, and Kansas, some other teams you see there as well. Big 10, you got two of them. There is the Wisconsin Badgers, and then you have the Maryland Terrapins there as well. And then there are some group of 5 teams as well. Fresno State, Tulane are two teams really close to breaking in to my top 25. All of these teams have been somewhat impressive or somewhat top 25 caliber, but again, they did not make the list. There are so many teams that I could list as number 26. I mean, Kansas, Missouri, Clemson, those are probably the closest teams to breaking back into my top 25. Tulane is there as well. But who did make my top 25? Well, again, as I mentioned, it's the same teams as last week, but they are going to be in a different order. We're going to start here with number 25 being the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, the Hawkeyes have not really been tested to their limits quite yet. They will be able to do that this week when they go on the road, play in the whiteout game. I know it's only September, but we're already having the whiteout game in Happy Valley against the Penn State Nittany Lions. That's really going to show how good this Iowa team is, or really if they need a lot of things to work on there. The offense is definitely improved from a season ago. We'll see how improved Iowa's offense really is and how good that defense really is when they play Penn State this week. For right now, they're sitting at number 25. Just 24 other teams I happen to like a little bit better, and 2 of those are teams that lost this past weekend, yet I still feel like deserve spots in the top 25 poll. And at number 24 is Tennessee. That little fiasco that they had there with Austin Peay in week 2 really kind of was an imminent sign that something was coming, and they just honestly got the brakes beat off of them here by the Florida Gators, who, again, very, very close to cracking that top 25, not there quite yet. But the Tennessee Volunteers do have some offensive things to figure out. I still think Joe Milton's a very good, solid piece. They got some solid weapons there, but the defense has room for improvement. The offense has got to improve some of that play calling and execution as well. Tennessee in danger of dropping out of the top 25 here. Very interesting one with UTSA coming up, but Tennessee sitting right there for right now at number 24. 23 for me here is the Kansas State Wildcats. Yes, I know they lost to a Missouri team. That's probably going to surprise a lot of people there in the SEC East. But for the Kansas State Wildcats, again, that game was very, very close. Missouri is also a pretty solid football team there, but the Kansas State Wildcats, guys, I still feel are a Big 12 contender. I still feel like that is a team That absolutely is top 25 worthy. Will Howard, yes, did not have his best game. It's the Kansas State defense that, yes, did not have their best game, and it's a skill position group that just looked a little bit off against Missouri. But overall, I've still been very impressed with the way that Kansas State has played. I like their wins against Troy, and then their FCS opponent they played. I'm trying to run through my head. I believe it was SEMO, Southeast Missouri State, that they ended up beating. But when I look at the Wildcat team as a whole, still really like them, still feel like they're a top 25 caliber team. They're sitting right there for me at number 23. Colorado has dropped 4 spots down here to number 22. And I got to tell you guys, Colorado, and I said this in my weekly takeaway video yesterday, is still a tier below. Right now, I know that they're going to be without Travis Hunter for, I believe it's the next 3 weeks here. He has a lacerated liver. Ouch. That is just not fun at all. So hopefully Travis Hunter can get a speedy recovery there. But they really got tested against the Colorado State team that Washington State blew out. Washington State, you see, they're at number 21. They're up 4 spots from last week. They were number 25. I have them here at number 21 right now. The Cam Ward and company have looked very, very impressive so far for the Washington State Cougars. But back to the Colorado Buffaloes, guys, I have no questions about that offense. I think that offense has a lot of great skill position players. Even without Travis Hunter there at wide receiver, I think they're going to be fine. But that defense, without their leader in Travis Hunter, what's that defense going to look? I could be very curious to see, as you got 2 really good offenses coming up next in Oregon and USC. So that'll be something interesting to watch there for the Colorado Buffaloes. We'll see how good Colorado really is when they go play on the road in Autzen, and then you get USC coming to Boulder. The Washington State Cougars, though, again, I spoke on them a little bit. They're up here at number 21. Love the way that Cam Ward and company have been playing so far. You got a really nice test when you get to play Oregon State this week. So love the way that Dickert's club is coming together here. Cam Ward playing really, really well, as I've said many a times. Washington State jumped up 4 spots for me here to number 21. Now entering my top 20, where I have the UCLA Bruins. Again, I've been very impressed by the way that UCLA has been able to play football this year, and they got a game against Utah coming up here very, very soon. This next week. So we'll really see what UCLA is made of. They played an FCS opponent last week, and while their first win against Coastal Carolina wasn't the prettiest, they were able to dominate San Diego State. That in their game against the FCS opponent last week, they still looked really, really good, and I think UCLA has what it takes to be able to compete with the Utah Utes again. I'll have a preview prediction video for that one up on my channel. UCLA's up 4 spots. They're up here to number 20. The Miami Hurricanes are jumping up here to number 19. Still like the way that Miami has played. Tyler Van Dyke has really come along. I think this is the defense that is getting better week by week. I think this is an offense, especially in the skill position room, that is getting better week by week. But it starts out with Tyler Van Dyke, right? I've been super impressed with the way that Tyler Van Dyke has been able to play thus far. And I'm very, very excited for what the future holds with this Miami program. Got some big games coming up on the schedule here down the line. So it's about continuing to grow and continuing to show improvement for the Miami Hurricanes here in these coming weeks. The Duke Blue Devils are up here at number 18. Riley Leonard has a stacked group of position players. Overall, when I take a look at the Duke Blue Devils here, a lot of the questions that I had about that defense have been answered for the most part. Really like the way that Duke has been playing offensively. Again, Riley Leonard is just a stupidly good weapon, a really, really good dual threat quarterback. He's got a lot of weapons around him, and the defense is playing up to a very, very high standard as well. Duke looks like a team that can make a run towards possibly a New Year's Six bowl game, if not an ACC title. So Duke sitting right there at number 18, and then North Carolina right here at number 17. So we got a trio of ACC schools that are slotted 17 through 19 here, and the North Carolina Tar Heels I have being the best of the bunch as of right now. Now it's very, very close. Carolina-Duke, going to be a very interesting game. Carolina-Miami, basically all the margins there are very, very slim, but North Carolina, I like them, even though Drake May hasn't necessarily been the Drake May of last year, right? His play, as of right now, has sort of taken a little bit of a step back, and while he's been still impressive at times, he hasn't really been consistently impressive. He's turning the football over. Granted, that's a very aggressive Minnesota defense that the Tar Heels played last week, but Drake May has a ton of weapons, not only in the wide receiver room, but the running back room is performing really, really well for North Carolina right now. Still got a lot of issues to fix on that defense, but I do rank North Carolina above the other two because of what that offense can be and of some of the standard that that defense has shown us throughout their first three performances. So North Carolina here at number 17. 16, though, is Oklahoma. Dylan Gabriel has improved mightily from his play last season. This Oklahoma offense has been ripping off 60-point games like it is nothing. Again, that SMU game, a little bit of a caveat there. SMU, a very, very good football team still, but the Oklahoma Sooners, ladies and gentlemen, are just going to continue to rise up this ranking board here. You got Cincinnati here for the big noon game coming up. The hype surrounding that one's kind of been diminished because Cincinnati lost to Miami of Ohio last week, but still should be a pretty good test for this Oklahoma offense. Cincinnati's got a pretty solid defense, so excited to see how that one pans out. But Oklahoma, especially offensively, has looked mighty impressive through the first 3 weeks here. So now let's go ahead and break on into the top 15. Oregon State did not move for me. The Oregon State Beavers, look, guys, have been mightily impressive so far this season. I really, really like the way that Oregon State is playing football right now. DJU has really been able to find himself. You still got a stud in the running back room in Damian Martinez, and this is the defense that's also seemed to step it up from some years past there as well. Oregon State's definitely going to contend in the Pac-12 here, moving on down forward, but there are just 14 teams that I end up liking better than the Oregon State Beavers, one of them being the Ole Miss Rebels. They got a huge game coming up with the team that's just ahead of them, and we'll talk about Alabama here in just a little bit. But for the Ole Miss Rebels, that offense has really, really exploded, and they haven't really had Quinshaw Junkins performing to his highest level quite yet. I believe he's only averaging like 3.5 yards per carry, somewhere around there. I do not have the stats in front of me, but he has not performed up to his highest level yet. However, this passing game with Jackson Dart, these wide receivers, especially the transfer and Trey Harris, have just performed really, really well. It's an Ole Miss defense that continues to take steps up. And again, they got a big opportunity going on the road in Bryant-Denny Stadium to face an Alabama team that dropped out of my top 10. Guys, let's face it, this is an Alabama team that has a lot of issues, and there are reports out there that the decision to bench Jalen Milroe for that game, the team just kind of gave up. They didn't feel like it was the right decision, and while that's not what I choose to believe, what I choose to believe is that Alabama's got some quarterback controversy and some quarterback problems, and overall just seems like a very broken team. I talked about it in my weekly takeaway video. Alabama has got to find themselves, and they've got to find themselves fast, because you are going to have to keep up pace with this Ole Miss offense one way or another, right? Whether that's really good defense, which Alabama does have. There are a lot of really good parts of this defense, but also when you take a look at that offense, quarterback play has got to get moving, and it's got to get moving now, because this is a very winnable game for the Ole Miss Rebels. And if Alabama were to end up dropping this one here this week, that's just going to spell disaster for the Crimson Tide throughout the rest of this season, who have got a very, very hard schedule coming up here later on. You still got LSU, Texas A&M, Auburn, Tennessee on that schedule. Alabama's got to start putting things together now before you got Ole Miss here coming up this Saturday. So they dropped 3 spots here to number 13. 12 more teams I like better than Alabama. One of them right now being the Utah Utes, who see themselves slide in up 1 spot here at number 12. And while Utah has given some people a little bit of cause for concern, like, okay, maybe Utah's not quite the team we thought they were going to be. We'll see Cam Rising play in a really big game as as Utah has UCLA this upcoming week. So that's going to be a very big game, a very good test for Utah offensively. It's going to be a very good test for them defensively as well. We'll see if that defense is going to be able to contain Dante Moore, Carson Steele, a lot of the other weapons that UCLA possesses there as well. So should be a very interesting one out of Salt Lake City, but the Utes continue to impress. They have 2 Power 5 wins under their belt already with the Florida Gators, who just went and beat Tennessee, so that one looks a whole lot better. And then with Baylor, that one can look a whole lot better as well, because Baylor plays Texas this week, and we'll talk about Texas here once we get further up the ranking board, obviously. But Utah slotting in here at number 12. Number 11, though, I still have the LSU Tigers, moving up one spot from where they were last week. I mean, LSU just looked mighty impressive. It looked like they just kind of woke up last week. Right now, Grambling State, they ended up putting up, 72 points? That was an FCS team. That's a team that you're supposed to beat by 62 or however much LSU ended up beating them by. But this game here, a lot of people thought that LSU was going to be in trouble. A lot of people thought that with this experienced Mississippi State Bulldog side, LSU may go down, may have an upset bid here, and that's just not what happened at all. LSU went out and dominated. Jaden Daniels played really, really well. There were so many parts of that team that just gelled right together, and LSU just seemed to feel like themselves, seemed to feel like the LSU of last year, which is a very, very good sign heading in here to some other games later on down the line. And again, you still got Alabama on this schedule here as well. LSU still got some tough games coming up here, but the Tigers were really able to put it together last week, so they jumped up a spot to number 11. Let's go ahead and dig into my top 10 now. Oregon has risen back into my top 10, where they currently sit at the 10th spot. Love the way that Oregon is playing football right now. You got Bo Nix at quarterback, who's looked very, very good. A lot of other weapons on offense have looked good. That defense is going to get a huge chance to prove themselves this week when you welcome Colorado to Autzen Stadium. The line on that game is crazy. I think Oregon's favored by like 21 points or something like that. I think I'm going to have a preview prediction video up for that one here on Thursday, I do believe it is. But when I take a look at the Oregon Ducks here, guys, I love the way that they're playing ball right now. This is absolutely a playoff contender, a Pac-12 contender as well, of which there are many. The Pac-12, in case you haven't been paying attention, is kind of a loaded conference this year. But Oregon's been playing some good ball. You got a pretty interesting test against Colorado coming up. We'll see how that one goes. Oregon is up here at number 10. Notre Dame is here at number 9. Now, make no mistake, Notre Dame at number 9 is not me devaluing this program, even though I did just jump Washington ahead of them, as you see by my trends on the left-hand side of your screen. I've just been that impressed with Washington, and I'll talk about that when I end up talking about that team. But talking about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, guys, there just happen to be 8 teams that I would tend to favor more on a neutral field. One of them is being favored over them even on Notre Dame's home field, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit as well. But Notre Dame, again, look, they've really come together here. They have one more game than most other teams across the nation have, and they've looked mighty impressive in all of their games. Their biggest tests so far have been the NC State Wolfpack, and they've been able, and they were able to handle that game, especially as it got into the second half. Sam Hartman, this young group of wide receivers, made some really good plays. This is one of the most experienced defenses in the entire country, probably the best linebacking room in the entire country as well. And Notre Dame has got the big one coming up this week. They get Ohio State coming into South Bend, primetime game on NBC. All eyes are going to be focused on that one. That's going to be a fun matchup that I'm actually going to be previewing later today here on my channel, so stick around there for that one. That's just going to be such a fun matchup to watch, no matter who you root for across the nation. But again, like I did say, I did jump Washington ahead of Notre Dame, and just how can you not be impressed with the play of Michael Penix so far? He looks like one of, if not the best quarterback the nation has to offer right now. Again, maybe you can make the case that Caleb Williams at USC has looked a little bit better, but Michael Penix has absolutely lit the world on fire with his wide receiver room. The running backs are playing well. The defense is taking some steps up. And Washington State just went on the road there and demolished a Michigan State team that has some pretty good defensive pieces, and the Huskies ended up hanging 41 on them there in East Lansing. Guys, the Huskies are really, really scary. This is the team that absolutely can vault themselves into the top 5 if they have some teams ahead of them drop. Again, just 7 other teams right now I like a little bit better than Washington, not a whole lot better. You could absolutely make the case why Washington is ahead of USC here, but I do have USC at number 7. The offense is still very, very dynamic, and the USC Trojans ended up having a bye week this past week, and I believe they have Arizona State or some lower level Pac-12 opponent coming up this week. But in 2 weeks here, you get USC versus Colorado in Boulder. That'll kind of be USC's first big test. Even though, again, Colorado may have some things to improve on there as well. But when I look at the USC Trojans, guys, still really, really good offense. The defense has definitely shown signs that it is getting better. So we'll see what USC is made of here in the coming weeks. Penn State is still sliding in here at number 6. Really like the way that the Nittany Lions are playing ball. They've been very, very impressive. That road win against Illinois, sure, that first half wasn't the prettiest, but the Nittany Lions have played some really, really good ball. Drew Allers absolutely lived up to the hype. This could be the best 1-2 punch at running back that the nation has to offer. Some really good pass catchers. This defense going to be one of the best in the entire nation, probably a top 10 defense all year long. Penn State just looks really, really good. And if it weren't for just me liking 5 teams better, Penn State would be in the top 5 right now. And speaking of the top 5, let's get there. So here is my top 5 here. We got the Texas Longhorns dropping 1 spot here to number 5. Last week, it was definitely a very close call between Ohio State and Texas for me at number 4. And I think I even said in that video, I would still favor Ohio State on a neutral field, but Texas has looked more impressive and they have the more impressive win. Well, Texas really struggled for about 3 quarters there with that Wyoming team. Now, granted, Wyoming has a loaded defense. There are a lot of really good players on the offensive end as well. Wyoming by no means is a bad football team, but Texas was not that game was not really supposed to be as close as it ended up being. Now, Texas did end up pulling away in the end. They figured things out and ended up getting their things together. But Texas was really struggling against that Wyoming team that, by all accounts, they should have been able to beat fairly handedly. So, again, Wyoming, very, very good team. But I did drop Texas 1 spot here and rose Ohio State to number 4 because the Buckeyes looked mighty, mighty impressive against the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. They held that Hilltopper team to some of the lowest passing totals that program has seen in a long, long time. Again, Western Kentucky's had some very dynamic quarterbacks. This Ohio State defense has taken a massive leap forward. Kyle McCord, Marvin Harrison Jr. really were able to develop that chemistry, and Kyle McCord really looked impressive last year, or not last year, last week. My apologies, but again, when you talk about Ohio State, you got the big one coming up here this week on the road in South Bend. Truly is a 50-50 toss-up game. Again, I'll be previewing that one here very, very shortly after this video, so look out for that video to come out here within a couple hours of this top 25 video dropping. That game is just going to be so much stupid fun. It's going to be a great, phenomenal game to watch. And for the Ohio State Buckeyes, they definitely gained some momentum last week, and it's also why I have them vaulting into my 4th spot into my top 25 poll. But the top 3 here have remained the same. Now, albeit all of these teams struggled in their various ways. So gaps definitely did close, but my top 3 ended up not changing. Florida State is here at number 3 still. I've still been impressed by the way that the Seminoles have played, although last week you had 2 starting offensive linemen out. You had a starting safety out in Akeem Dent as well. Jordan Travis ended up getting hurt midway through that Boston College game as well. And, well, the Eagles really ended up making that one close. Definitely had some opportunities where they could go out and win that game. Although Florida State also had their opportunities to really stretch that lead as well. So some missed opportunities on both sides. Florida State did end up walking away with the win. And Florida State, in my opinion, still the front runner in the ACC, but the ACC definitely a little bit more open than we first thought, right, with the way that Florida State ended up struggling there. They are staying at number 3 here, but Florida State's got a big one this week when they go on the road to take on the Clemson Tigers in Death Valley. That's going to tell us a lot about what this Florida State team is. Again, you had a very impressive performance week 1 against the LSU Tigers. Can you duplicate that against a school of the same mascot in Clemson? So we'll see if they can do that. Michigan at times really did struggle against a Bowling Green defense that, honestly, guys, is just not that great. And you know me, I love to give love to the group of 5 here and talk about all the great players and all the great teams that are in the group of five, but Bowling Green's defense is not that great, and Michigan really did struggle. Now, again, they turned it on. They were able to score points, and I think they ended up winning that game by like 25 or so, and Michigan's going to end up getting Jim Harbaugh back this week as well when they have an undefeated showdown with the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Rutgers is 3-0. So we'll see what Michigan really is made of. J.J. McCarthy did not have his best performance last week, and Michigan really won't get thoroughly tested, I believe, until they play Iowa, I believe, is on that schedule. All I know is you have Rutgers this week, on the road at Nebraska next week, and then you move forward with Big Ten play. So we'll see if the Wolverines can improve in certain areas when their head coach Jim Harbaugh comes back. But number one, guys, is still Georgia. And I know they really struggled against South Carolina at times, but Spencer Rattler definitely had some cause to. Or, what am I trying to say here? Okay, sorry. Restart. Spencer Rattler has been very impressive up to this point in the season, and when he was going on the road or to play that Georgia team, he was fired up. He looked pretty good there at times, but this Georgia defense, guys, is just still spectacular. They were able to create pressure. They were able to get him down to the ground. This is just not a very good South Carolina offensive line, so that obviously didn't help either, but Georgia was able to create pressure and really able to create havoc in that game there. The offense may not be what it was last year quite yet. Who knows where Carson Beck really does lie. It's a run game that may not be as talented as years prior, and it's a wide receiver group that may not just be as deep as it has been in seasons past. But Georgia is still my number one team. I've still been impressed by the way that they've played. But guys, this is an absolutely loaded week 4 coming up here. It's going to be a lot of fun. There are going to be a lot of very, very, very interesting games that are going on here. So preview predictions are going to start later today. We'll preview the big one where College Game Day is going to be the biggest game of the week when Ohio State goes on the road to take on Notre Dame. But in the meantime, remember to play hard, tailgate harder. Look for that video to come out later today, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.